Welcome, Beverley, on my podcast. I'm so very happy that you're here today because I'm pretty sure, no doubt, that your experience is going to help a lot and a lot of people out there who are constantly asking questions, but unfortunately are left without any answers. So I would like to know a little about yourself. So give me a background about yourself and about your career and how you have transitioned in what you are today and what you are doing.
Thank you, Stephanie, for inviting me. A little bit about me. My background is forensic psychology and mental health. And, that was something I was very passionate about until, I think it was 1995. My son was 3 and he had a vaccine. And we were leaving on a plane for Spain the next day. Within 12 hours, he presented with gastroenteritis symptoms, but also he stopped looking at everyone, screaming endlessly, and he was never the same again. I literally landed in Spain and ended up in a hospital where they thought it was gastroenteritis. It was very clear within inside a few days it was not. So we had no speech, no eye contact. He wouldn't wear clothes. And we brought him back home to the UK and he was assessed. Nursery assessed him and he was diagnosed with severe autism. No speech, no contact, nothing. Now, this is the 3-year-old. So he was playing, he had a bike, 2 wheels, he's very, advanced, normal young man. Not my first child. I had a 5-year-old as well. So this, for me, was a medical crisis.
Which vaccine was it?
MMR. And this was at a time that autism was not known. This is in the 90s. So I went everywhere. I worked for the government at the time. So you go, your GP, you go everywhere, and nobody knew. Everyone said, it's my 5-year-old was speaking for him and yeah, but he's got a diagnosis of autism. This doesn't come from nowhere. You don't wake up one day and have a perfectly normal child and then the next day you don't. And the only thing that happened was a vaccine. So I ended up meeting Andrew Wakefield and the world of autism that had started at that time because my son had a bowel condition. So it's a gut-brain bowel condition we're talking about, the damage.
Because obviously the brain has a direct nerve to the gut, right?
Yeah, it's an axis.
Yes.
And that impacts the bowel. So if there's something wrong with the gut, which there was, and something wrong with the bowel, which there was, there's something wrong with the brain. I ended up, Professor Paul Shattuck at Sunderland University was testing urine of these children with this anomaly. And he helped me understand that my son's brain was not methylating effectively. So these toxins had gone in, but they were not coming out. And the body's designed for all of us, to methylate them out. And we needed to change that because there was no regeneration, no repair, no healing, no development happening while my son was in this methylation compensation state. That changed everything for me. How do you detox a 3-year-old? And how do you detox them of some of the most toxic things on planet Earth, which were in these vaccines? That's when I knew what was in them. How is formaldehyde in a child's vaccine? The amount of chemicals that we looked at that had gone into my son that we had to remove was just overwhelming.
What is formaldehyde?
You embalm dead bodies with formaldehyde, and it's inside these vaccines. The list, that's a whole different podcast. There's a whole list of these things that are in there that you would not believe. It's like antifreeze is in there. So I then started looking at safe detoxification for children. And, over the next 3 years, I changed my career. I went from forensics to epigenetics. And epigenetics is how environmental things affect our health. So things outside the body affect inside the body, which is, taking us down a route of food. My son had become very affected by food, dairy, gluten. He was no longer able to metabolize sugar. It was like giving him drugs when you gave him anything with sugar in. Anything processed, he was very, very ill. His immune system shut down, so he was constantly sick. And it took 6.5 years of endless detoxification to get him healthy, physically healthy. But by that time, the learning difficulties, had stepped in quite severely. So now he's 32 and he has the mental age of a 8-9-year-old at best. So this is my child. I will be looking after him forever, for the rest of my life. And I just wanted the world to know, one, how to prevent this, and two, if it happens, how to get in quickly and to get that damage out before, the learning difficulty steps in. I opened a school for autism because nobody could educate my son. So I had to open a school because they excluded him from every school in the United Kingdom because of his behavior at the age of 5. So the only way to educate him was to open my own. So I had to become qualified in, education as well as everything else. And we opened a school in the north of England, the south of England. We were the first education facility to be tripart funded by social services, health, and education. And we had lots of children that couldn't be taught anywhere else. And the way I worked with every child was to activate methylation efficiency, switch on the healing and the regeneration. And that was changing what they ate, detoxification strategies, and some of them are very simple. Breathing, teaching children how to breathe correctly, teaching parents how to optimize sleep, using words that kids understand instead of bombarding them. Music, sound, tapping into a part of the brain that retains memory, so it was great. And we did that for a very long time. And then when my son graduated from school, 17, what do we do next? And we decided we were going to move here. We were going to go to this tiny island in the middle of the Mediterranean for my son's adulthood. It's safer there, healthier there. And that's when I realized I'd arrived on an island that was abundant in arthritis, abundant in autism, abundant in all of these things I've been dealing with for years. So then I ended up starting work again here. And
so you came to retire and you live in Gozo, right? Yeah. And then you ended up working. But this has become your passion, right?
I'm very passionate about it. Yeah. Obviously 5G, when that started on the island, I was part of the group to try and not allow that to happen. And with the vaccines that came at the beginning of the pandemic, I was out there telling people, about them. I think I'm more of a problem solution. And if you know about the problem, you don't need to take the problem. You can avoid it. But for those that didn't avoid it, I then come in with safe solutions. So I navigate toxin-free living. It's what I do. I teach people how to avoid toxins. And if you've not avoided them, how to safely remove them.
Going back to the diagnosis of your son, does the state recognize that it's because of the vaccine? That it's because of the toxins?
No, I don't think. Some people have taken payments out of court, so a lot of parents, and I was offered payments. So you take a payment, you don't go to court, you sign it, a non-disclosure agreement, and that's it. And so
they bribe people, literally.
Yeah.
So that the information doesn't go out.
There's been a few that have gone through court, but not many. And that's in 30 years. I discovered very early on when I was, registering this as a vaccine damage about my son. I went through VARS, which is the international group. And you then look at how many people have reported vaccine damage, and not just from the MMR, many vaccines. It's terrifying. And every step of the way through your process, if you don't have an extraordinary amount of money for the legal process, you're up against big pharma. You're up against governments. I formed a government lobbying group when this happened to my son, and we were at Parliament every week. And I spoke to politicians from all, different political parties. And after about 2 years, in 2000, one of them, very nice politician, came up to me and he said, "We all agree. Your evidence is clear. We agree with you. We've all got kids, but nobody's going to back you. Because if it was out there that this vaccine, which most children have had, can cause this kind of damage, then you would bankrupt the government, every government. Because you're not going to bankrupt Big Pharma because they've got a clause that they've got no comeback. You know, that's why they deliver these vaccines, because when they first came out delivering them, there was compensation. And within inside 2 years, they were going to go bankrupt. So they told the FDA, we're not doing vaccines no more. We can't afford it. And that's when they got this get out of jail free card. You can produce the vaccines and there's no legal comeback on you. Well, I couldn't believe it. And where else in life can you produce a laptop or glass or a chair or build a house? And if there's something wrong with it, you can't go back to the person and say, you know, you built this faulty, there's something wrong.
You cannot keep them accountable.
That's it. Only vaccines. Only. I could not believe it. And that's when this fire came up inside of me, because there was not really internet at that point. So when internet came out, that was me out there telling people, did you know, did you know that you have no comeback? Do you know what's in these vaccines? You know, have you any idea at the damage they can do to your children? And we're in 2026. And right now, today, in 2026, there has never been a vaccine that has been tested safe and effective. The paperwork for it has never been submitted, ever. Till today, 2026, any vaccine for anybody. We don't have that paperwork. And that's terrifying, you know. And whether you believe in vaccines or you don't really is irrelevant. We deserve safety. And we deserve someone to go to when something goes wrong. And to say, what are you going to do about this? Because autism is no joke. It's a very expensive condition to navigate. And there's no time, because a child is developing. And so you need that help, and you need the right help, and you need it now. And that costs money. Where are you going to get that from?
In England, is it compulsory before you write down your kids in a school? So you have the freedom of choice. In Malta, it's not.
No, I know. But not for all vaccines in Malta. But there are ways of navigating everything. There are always solutions to problems.
I'm sure that the televiewers are gonna come back to this, and they really want the solutions.
Right.
The
So
navigation.
the law is immunization, not vaccination. All right. We assume immunization is vaccination.
Immunization.
And there's homeopaths. You've got to take something called a titer test. So many children are born with natural immunity to all of these things. If you get a blood test done, titers, and your child's already immune, that's all you need to prove. You don't need to get a vaccine. In fact, most vaccine damage happens because the child's already immune and you put a chemical in which overrides that. And that's where we start to see vaccine damage. You know, so no, it's not vaccination, it's immunization. That is the law here. And if we're going to go to the letter of the law, then we just need to evidence they're immunized. And there's loads of ways of doing that, including homeopathics.
You were speaking about how you try to get through to the parliament in the UK. And I'm assuming that during COVID, you were in Malta already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the same situation when coming to deal with diplomatic people, as in, I'm assuming you were against the COVID vaccine?
Well, it's not tested.
Researching.
It's not tested. It came very quick. You know, they weren't even following their own protocols, which are not very good anyway, but they didn't follow them. And I think with the history of vaccine damage and working with vaccine damage for such a long time, my advice to everybody was, if we assess the risks of what's going to happen if you contract the virus, opposed to the risks that potentially could happen if you took the vaccine, the reality didn't balance at all. You know, this is a virus. We've dealt with viruses before, you know, and if people followed the protocols, washing hands, breathing, there's loads of strategies one could use. There was no need for this. I think we now know things have rolled forward. You know, those that took this were far left in a far worse state than those that didn't. But I think what happened in the UK and what happened in Malta and Gozo was pretty similar. You know, people got frightened, and based on their fear, they lost their common sense. And I think a lot of people went and took vaccines, not because they wanted them, but because they were frightened, or family pressure. You know, there was a lot of fear surrounding it. A lot of people said, you know, if you don't have the vaccine, you can't fly, you can't go here, you can't do this. So I didn't have the vaccine. None of my family had the vaccine. We flew to and from the UK all the time. You know, I think I must have had over 100 PCR tests at one point. I contacted the Maltese government. I spoke to the head at that time, sent her an email, told her about my son, myself, my parents.
Dr. Charmaine Gauci.
Yeah. And she said, it's fine. So I flew without. And I then submitted, it's called a contact group. There's an international group worldwide. Instead of focusing on the vaccinated, I wanted somebody to focus on the non-vaccinated. Let's do a comparison. Let's put some science in place. So the contact group, you have a card with your picture on and your address, and it states you cannot be vaccinated, and you need to submit your data online every month. So they monitor us. Every age. My parents were in their 80s. My son is obviously with autism. My partner's got autoimmune disorder. We should be the sickest amongst everyone now, yet we were the healthiest. And that goes, you know, you need to look at the statistics from the contact group. And anyone can join even now, you know, and start submitting that data and get some clean science. But that was my advice to everybody. Unless they give you the science and you see it with your own eyes, don't put anything in your body when you don't even know what it is. And it's got mRNA in it, you know, and mRNA has been out there because I work in epigenetics. I test DNA and I work, you know, with gene mapping. And so I know what mRNA is. You've got it. I've got it. It's part of our blueprint. It codes genes. Codes them for what? You know, that this is something that somebody else has coded that's going to come into a code. Of what is on that code? That's what I wanted to know. And it's not written anywhere, you know. Now, what I know is that when you start messing around with the genes, what we're at real risk of happening is something called genetic predisposition. I don't know if you've heard of that before.
Yes.
And like say a BRCA gene, a breast cancer gene, you may have it, but you may never get breast cancer. There's got to be an environmental event that triggers that off. And what we were seeing at the beginning of COVID and the people I was testing was they were getting a lot of genetic predisposition triggered at once. You're very young people getting cardiomyopathy, for example. You know, kidney disorders and breast cancer genes getting activated. People I knew had these genes, clients of mine, but all of a sudden now they're all triggered all at once. You know, it doesn't happen that way normally. And it was like, what is going on? There's too many things happening at one time. So for me, I think the mRNA aspect caused a lot of problems, you know, and I also saw people with very healthy immune response. Their immune system was malfunctioning. Why? When up until right now, it's functioned, you know, well. And something was going on with that. And whether they took one vaccine or one of my clients took 9 vaccines, you know, it didn't seem to matter. You know, it didn't seem to be on amount. It was what that code was doing inside of them. And that's what I've been navigating with my clients and internationally with people since the end of 2022. You know, it's the mop up the mess now. It's affected people. People don't feel like they felt before. And they don't feel immunologically strong. They don't heal. They don't repair well. And they've aged rapidly.
Yes, in fact, a lot of people tell you that since they took the vaccine, they're not the same person anymore.
They're not. We are our genes. And our genes program for new cells. And we've got this program now that's overridden our own mRNA, mass producing spike proteins, and it has other things in. I mean, it was only 18 months ago that we discovered N1 methyl pseudouridine was in there. And this is, for me, shocking, because I understand why they've put it in. So if you've got mRNA and it goes in, its job is to make lots of spike proteins very, very, very quickly in your body. And it'll last for a certain level of time to give you coverage, theoretically, for 6 weeks to 3 months. It's going to produce these things. Now, if you're a healthy person and your immune system, who's there to guard you, like your armed defense system, sees something mass producing spike proteins, it's going to shut that down.
Because it's an alien for it.
It's like your body's going to go, what is this? Stop that now, but it didn't. Why? Right? And the vaccine manufacturers knew that they wouldn't be able to mass produce spike proteins from mRNA without the immune system shutting it down. So what they did to get around that, they put a chemical in there called N1-methylpseudouridine, which is an invisibility cloak. So it cloaks, like covert. Your immune system can now no longer see the mRNA mass producing spike proteins. All right. So I understand why they put it in. However, for many people, it didn't leave. So for many people, they develop things like cancer, arthritis, other conditions that their immune system should have seen and responded to. And because N1-methylpseudouridine is still inside the body, the immune system didn't see it, giving time for things like cancer to grow, autoimmune disorders to grow, without being checked by the immune system.
So basically your body wasn't defending itself.
Couldn't see. It couldn't see. And this seems to happen more to people who are not vaccinated, who've been shed on by people who have been vaccinated. We only knew around about 18 months ago that this could happen to people that were not vaccinated. And it's not made up. These are people I know, that I've tested. It's a fact. And it's not here in Malta. This is something that's happening worldwide. I mean, we know through the Korean study and the Italian study that heterogenesis vaccines, the people that means you've had more than one and more than one type. So you might have had Pfizer and AstraZeneca. There was a combination mix. The cancer in those group of people is much higher than we would normally expect. And that was 8.4 million people, the Korean study. It's not a joke. That's a lot of people tested. So these are the facts, these are the science, and that's what I follow. It's not my opinion. It's what's out there.
I'm glad you are saying this, because a lot of professional scientists maybe who it could be that initially they felt betrayed from their own system, but they used to argue the fact that there was no evidence. But now all this evidence is out there for the people to see, right?
Yeah, I mean, people will argue against it, won't they? They'll say, oh, that was just one study. We need more. I wouldn't take that as science if it's just one study. It's one isolated. Then the Italian study came out. So now we've got 2 studies. And there's more and more and more studies every day coming out. If in doubt, err on the side of caution. This is your health. It's your life. It's the life of your children. And I learned that way back in 1995. And so, you don't put your finger in the fire twice. I didn't ask questions about that vaccine. I didn't know what was in it. I trusted the GP did. I didn't know it was dangerous. And I've lived, and my son and my family have lived with the catastrophic impact of me not doing my due diligence at that time. So whatever it is, from that point, I've done my due diligence. And when you come up with a vaccine at the beginning of a pandemic, out of fresh air, and I know the process, the legal process for vaccine production, that's really strange. And the other thing that was strange was mRNA, synthetic mRNA, has been around for 30 years. I don't know if you know that. All right. And every time Big Pharma have tried to get it passed by the FDA, it's never made it to human trials because they wanted it as a cancer drug. That was the science behind it. And it never, ever got authorization for human trials. 30 years of being told, no, it's not safe, it's not safe, it's not safe. This mRNA that has never made human trials in 30 years, within 5 minutes of a pandemic, is given authorization straight away. Miss human trials will just go out to the human population. So you reject something for 30 years and then you say, yes, it's okay, without doing the tests. Strange. So I always found that to be strange as well. You know, synthetic mRNA has been around for a long time. People think it's new. It's not. Why do you all not know about it until the pandemic? Because if it was safe and effective, they had 30 years to prove it.
And you know what, as well, something that really hurts me, it is that we usually ignore what people feel, that they are the main testimonies of what's going on until a study comes out. People are living proof of what you have tried and tested on. So people really do get ignored.
They do. They do. They do. You're either classified as a conspiracy theorist.
Have you ever been called one?
Oh, yeah. A lot. 30 years. Conspiracy theorist. You know, even when it comes to AirPods, you know, when they came out, we started to see a correlation because I'm obviously research and I look for root cause in my clients' conditions. And I was seeing an increase in brain tumors, glioblastomas particularly, persistent migraines, I mean, debilitating migraines that wouldn't go away. And it kept coming back to the same thing. And we have something called leaky gut syndrome, which I discovered through autism. But this was manifesting the same, but in the brain, leaky brain syndromes. This was around about 7 years ago. Why? Why are people manifesting with this? And then we started bringing it down to AirPods. You know, so it's like a circuit, a positive and a negative, like a battery. And when you put AirPods with no wires in your ears, what it's doing is sending these frequencies continually through the brain. And it is causing long-term damage in the brain. That's not the only thing going on because you're in a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth for these things to work. So we've got all of these different frequencies with these connectors, powerful connectors, going like this from one side of the brain to the other. And then at the same time, we've got the world of brain cancer increasing, rapidly increasing from one of the lowest to one of the highest with inside the same timeline as developing all of these AirPods and smartwatches. Cardiomyopathy, a lot of people blame COVID vaccines for the cardiomyopathy. Something else happened at the same time. People started wearing Fitbit smartwatches, which are pinging off towers every 6 seconds, affecting the energy field of the heart. And so then it tells your watch that you're going to take a heart attack. So then you go into hospital because your watch has told you. By the time you get there, your heart's calmed down. And I spent 15 hours one night in a hospital in the UK with my cousin. And I went, can you take that watch off? And all of the people in the waiting room, it was about 3 a.m. All of the people in the waiting room, I told them all, take your watches off. And we're going to do some prana breathing. All right, that's what we're going to do. Because we've got a 15-hour wait to see a doctor. I made them all take the watches off and do prana breathing, drink water, and they all felt better. Half of them went home. Right? Because these watches, when you take them away from you, your heart energy field calms down and it starts to recalibrate itself. So yeah, these are the things that people need to be aware of. How many people are wearing these for fitness reasons? The irony that it's causing a weakened heart state, you know. So that's another thing, you know, technology come in at the same time. So just before COVID, we had all of this technology launched at us. And so there was a combination effect, I think. Fear was triggered, stress and anxiety. As you know, stress is the number one killer. A lot of people stress, and a lot of people still stress, devastated because of what they went through COVID. Families broke down. We lost people. People died alone. There's guilt. Grief, stuff like that. And so that's what people are still dealing with today. And the people I work with, that's what they're still dealing with today. And nobody listens to them. Nobody's hearing their story. You know, that bothers me, you know. So yes, that's what I think. Listen to the people. There should be a forum for them.
Now, I'm 100% sure that people who are listening to this podcast want a solution. Is there a way that people can detox from all of these toxins?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we can't look at detoxification. We should detox naturally. Our body was designed to do that. Unfortunately, we live in a very toxic world now. And so our body is incapable of raising to the challenge of the kind of toxins we have today. And so I think for the 30 years, I've been detoxing people 3 times a year. And I'm going after something called fat soluble toxins because we have fat tissue and chemicals are fat soluble. So whether it's statins or beta blockers or a vaccine, if it was made in a laboratory and you put it in your body, it's a chemical and that's fat soluble. And that buries itself deep inside your fat tissue. And you don't need to be overweight to have fat tissue. We all have fat tissue, And the more we put in, air toxins, water toxins, toxins in food, even people living healthy lives. If you're consuming organic food, then you're consuming an awful lot of parasites, for example. So by being healthy, you're now hosting parasites, So we've got toxins, natural toxins, chemical toxins, and they're all going in the body. And rarely do people take them out. So 30 years ago, I designed a deep tissue fat soluble toxic detoxification process, which uses nature. So using very old strategies to pull this out layer by layer by layer, over a period of a month. Because nobody has time to take 7 days to detox. We're all very busy, So when you increase this knowledge and these practices into your life for 30 days, it's easy to do, and there's no rush, there's no panic. By the end of week 1, you're already quarter of the way there. By the end of week 2, your body is in a methylation efficient state and you're healing. By the end of week 3, you're sleeping 7.5 hours a night and waking up, bouncing out of bed. This is how it needs to be done. There's no quick fix. You've got to melt these fat soluble toxins and you've got to flush them and you've got to do it naturally. So I do that 3 times a year for 30 years. And it's a game changer. It's not a one-off. You can't just go and do it once and think you're going to be okay. But it's very important, to be able to detoxify. Very important to clean our house. If we didn't, you can imagine, what's going to happen. If we left rubbish in the kitchen for years on end, you can imagine how toxic and unsafe that kitchen would be. But we leave this stuff inside of our body and we keep
Piling up.
Adding more.
When we speak about detox, it's not only inside our body. We need to detox our environment as well. Am I right?
Yeah.
So we need to change our lifestyle, basically.
And it doesn't happen overnight. It's a habit, isn't it? And we know for a long time, if you can change your routine, it takes 90 days. If you can change your routine, then you don't have to think about it. Your body does it automatically. Breathing, the way we breathe, the water we drink, how we sleep, how we move. And most people, as I said, are busy. They don't have time to go to the gym for 45 minutes 3 times a week. They don't have time to do all of these healthy things. So I teach people how to do all of this stuff, biohack it, how to do it in 5 minutes. I do live 5-minute yoga every morning. We do 6-minute rebounding at midday. Busy people come to me because they need to tick these boxes and they need to tick them in a small amount of time that gives the most benefit. So I teach people how to do that really and bring it in, into their everyday life because it's all about habits. And so by the end of a year, you've done 3 detoxes. Every time you've learned more and more and more and more. So you get to the end of that year and you're like a whole different person, because you've kept yourself clean. You've integrated these incredible habits into your life. In many cases, people around you start doing them as well, and you navigate a toxic world in a very healthy way. So the next time you detox, you're removing less because you absorb less. That's the thing. Yeah, environmental detox is essential. You've got to be mindful of the water you're drinking. You've got to be mindful of the air, a lot of air pollution, and how to navigate it because you can't change the air. So how do you navigate it and not get sick? And it's that knowing and learning that really, I don't know, it's my mission in life, it would appear, to come forward and teach people simple strategies that they can put in their life to keep themselves well and prevent illness. prevention being the key.
What is your opinion about the 5G and the upcoming 6G?
My goodness me. It's, again, something that's not tested, and something that we know we've seen an increase in ill health since it's been out there. We're swimming in a very toxic electromagnetic soup already. We add on top 5G, and then we add everything else on top of that. And we will guarantee, fast forward 5 years from now, we're going to see a significant increase in different types of illnesses, mental health illnesses. Children and their development is already being affected. We know this, and we've seen it over the past 15 years. It frightens me, thinking moving forward at the damage that's going to happen next.
And obviously their exposure to laptops, to mobile phones.
Smart boards in. I mean, we've done a lot of testing. You've got a smart board in a class. Now we've got the overlap. So you could have a smart board in class 1, a smart board in class 2, class 3, each with their own overhead. Each one doesn't just do the class they're in, it goes to the next class and the class next to that. So they're getting hit with 3, 4, 5 times the amount. And these are small children whose bone density is not fully grown yet, that we're blasting with all of this. And that's just electromagnetic frequencies. You start adding to that 5G, 6G, Bluetooth devices. And what is that doing to the development of the bone, of the tissue? What is it doing to the energy, frequency, and vibration of that very small child? That concerns me. Because we know since Wi-Fi has moved forward, we have seen a decrease in the development of children. If children IQ, natural development, health issues have significantly increased over this period of time. So we've got less IQ now in our children when we compare that with the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. Why? Environmental. What we feed them and what we give them access to, and the invisible toxins in the air around them. And now parents will ring me up and say, what is the school you recommend? Not based on how well
academy.
It's not based on that. It's based on how clean is it. What toxin-free school do you recommend? These are the questions parents ask me now. That doesn't have Wi-Fi, that doesn't have computers. Where can I go? And this is for UK as well as Malta and many in Italy. Parents are contacting me asking me that question. Where before it would have been, which is the best academy, or which is the best support in sports. Now, no. Which is the least toxic school can my child attend? And that's a real thing.
Can we live off the grid? Because it's all a system, right?
I think we can to a certain degree. I've got a lot of members that are homesteaders. I live in Gozo, and I live probably as much off the grid as is possible. I've still got a lot ways to go, but it's something you don't do overnight. It's something. You start to take control over your energy. You start to take control over your water. You start to take control.
Give me some examples.
Solar, for example, taking control over your energy. And you don't have to have big solar panels all over your roof. I don't have them on my roof. I have small ones all around, and that feeds the power in my house. I charge my phone on a solar panel. We don't waste electricity. When there's power outs, I still have light in my house, because of how I've put it together. Growing your own food, very, very easy to do here. And you can do it from balconies, you can do it from windows, very easy. And I think this is where you start to own your power, cleaning up your air, ozonating food. Ozone generator costs around about under €100. You buy it once. And if it's not organic food, then you're taking the chemicals out. If it is organic food, you're taking the parasites out, And so by putting your food in this water, you're removing most of the toxins from it. And it's very simple to do.
Oh, I never heard of this system.
Ozone generator. It's been around for a very long time. For example, chicken. We know chicken is injected with antibiotics and all kinds of bad things. You don't want to eat that. You don't want that in your children. So I do a demonstration for people with an ozone generator, put the mineral water in the glass bowl, put the chicken in, put the ozone generator on, and within a few minutes it bubbles, and you can see disgusting yellow pustulas coming out of the chicken because the ozone's pulling the antibiotics out, pulling the parasites out. You can see them. It's disgusting. You scrape all that off and you've got chicken now that is toxin free, that is safe to cook and eat. Same with fish, vegetables. Yeah. So when we moved here, I needed a way of cleaning up the food to make it safe for my family, and that was the solution: ozone generator. Less than €100 for every household. You only need one. My hot tub runs on an ozone generator as well, not chlorine. We don't have chlorine in the pool. Everything's run on O2, oxygen. Very simple and not expensive to do. So, yes. Another side effect of COVID and lockdown was everyone got hot tubs, especially in the UK, and they were pouring chlorine in them and inhaling the chlorine. So we ended up with COPD and lots of asthma. So I've spent a lot of time over the last few years teaching people how to convert them over to oxygen, because you can keep hot water clean with oxygen instead of chlorine. One of the things that concerns me a lot is disinformation, misinformation. And I mean, we're all entitled to our opinion, but it's opinion. But when it comes to facts, I think there's a lot of confusion. I see a lot of confusion with everyone, not just Maltese people, in what they're saying on social media.
People don't know what to believe anymore.
No. It was interesting when you first came out and did the first podcast, because my members that are Maltese, Gosselton, said to me, "Have you seen Stephanie Chircop?" Because and she's speaking in Maltese, and I was like, "I did. I shared it on my stuff. That's how you saw it." I know. And they're like, "People are listening to her, Beverley, and they've not listened to us for 5 years because they're telling their family members what I'm saying." And I was like, "I know." People like you going out there being clear and coming out with facts. That's important, and people need to hear this. They need somebody they know, like, and trust, and they need it in their own language, And I think that's how things are going to change. But it's still confusing. People are still confused. People still ask me, I didn't have that mRNA vaccine. What do I do to get rid of the COVID vaccine? And it's the same thing. So many people, when they see on social media mRNA, spike protein, they didn't have that because they had a COVID vaccine. They've not made the correlation that it's the same thing.
Yes.
And it's a shame. People need clear direction. They need to know detox, not just a couple of times a year, but navigate your food, navigate the air, navigate what you're doing and what you're putting in your kids, navigate it well. What we're doing with our elderly, this concerns me greatly. Statin medication, for example, and cholesterol. What's high and what's low cholesterol? For example, when cholesterol is elevated and you take medication to lower it, that medication will keep going. And when it gets to us down here, that's when we start to see memory loss, Alzheimer's, dementia, because that good cholesterol is what keeps your brain healthy. How many people on statins go back and get this check and say, right, okay, stop taking them now. You're balanced. That doesn't happen. Some of the people have come to me, I've never had the cholesterol checked in 15 years.
They're on the medication for life.
Yeah.
And it's like a one size fit all. When a woman or a man of 55 years old upwards, they all have this POYC card with almost the same medication.
But they've got no proof that they have elevated cholesterol, number one. And number two, they have no idea that this medication is going to keep eating their good cholesterol. And when it's eating it all up, you have memory loss and dementia.
You know what some people told me as well? That the doctor tells them that it's for prevention.
How can you prevent something? You can't. Really insane. Yeah. So people need to be aware of these things. This is the stuff I tell people. I started an academy, online academy in 2022. Before then, I was one-to-one or public speaking, But obviously with lockdown and 5 million people needing to ask questions, I couldn't manage that. So I opened an online academy, and it's free to join, and people come and they ask me the questions, and I will give them the truthful answer. They ask for the science, and we give them the science. And if the science doesn't exist, we tell them it doesn't exist. And I think this is a safe space for many people to come. What is healthy living? What is healthy eating? Many people don't know, and it's not because they don't want to know. Where do they get the information from? Navigating statin medication. If you've never tested high for cholesterol.
Why do you take statins?
And what do you say to your doctor? When you want to go, you can't question your doctor. What do you say? And so I've got to give them this script to go and say, can you test my cholesterol? Can you see if it's elevated? Can you tell me if it is? And if it's not, can you tell me why I'm taking this? And if, let's get off this. These are the processes I take people through. It's empowering. How to turn your Wi-Fi off at night and not sleep in Wi-Fi. Simple. Reduce your exposure by a third. You're not using it. You're asleep. These things matter. Simple, simple, simple things. But if you don't know about them, you don't know. So the Academy's been helpful. It's brought people together that have been damaged, that have been fearful, and they don't want to be fearful, again. I mean, the last few months we've been doing sovereignty. So how do you protect your data? How do you protect your information? How do you protect your biometrics? How do you protect them legally? And it's simple little strategies that people can put in place one by one, like changing your email. How do you close down your email? How long is it that other people can see that before it's then, destroyed inside, the World Wide Web? What is safe, and what does safe mean, and who can access that? Communication, SMS, what's safe, and how do you close all that information down and open somewhere else that's safe? So that's been a big problem for people over the past few months. So we've been covering that in the Academy as well. How to protect your information and keep it yours. Because if you don't protect it and give respect to it, somebody else will. That's my bottom line. That's my statement on personal data. Protect it.
Since all of this was an agenda, and I know that we are on the same wavelength here, do you think that another pandemic is going to follow?
For sure. I think what we've gone through was just
a test.
Yeah. History repeats itself. It always does. And I think we can look at our history to see our future. And if we do not switch our minds on, take the rose-tinted glasses off, and look at what's happening, and reclaim our power. And that doesn't mean breaking the law. It means know that you have this power inside of you. You have these rights. Know what they are. Invoke them. That's what's going to save people when they pull another pandemic. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a viral pandemic. I think it's going to be controlling the people.
Energy pandemic, for example.
Yeah, it could be. My members, for example, know they've built a 4-week go bag. So we've got survival kits that will last a month on energy, natural medications, food. We've been doing that for a very long time. And it was on the 23rd of March, 26, that the EU told EU citizens to get a 72-hour go bag.
True.
Yeah, and I've been planning this with my members for over a year. And it's good. It's empowering to know that you've got that stuff there. And whatever happens, you've got food for your family, you've got medication, you know how to use that, you know how to use first aid, because you've learned how to do it. It's empowering. It's not fearful. And whatever they throw at us, we have got strategies that we can follow. That's the only way of navigating it. But I'm sure, yes, something is coming. Something is definitely coming. We can look at history for that. It continually comes. But it's how prepared are you to deal with it? Let's not be disempowered this time. Let's be empowered.
Be positive and take action. That's the most important.
Take action
thing.
now. Prevent.
Yes.
Prevent that. And we can. We really, really can.
Amazing. Beverley, thank you so much for being the person you are and for coming here from Gozo to empower people. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you for having me.
U intom li qed isseguni mid-dar taħsbu li Beverley hija conspiracy theorist?